The Daddy Letters. Season 2. Letter 29. A Brother's Recovery.
Dear son, thank you for working with me on the intervention for your brother's drug addiction and helping us find the best Christian rehabilitation center for him. Because a lot of your brother's problems are spiritual, I was worried we were going to have to entrust his spiritual health to unspiritual recovery counselors who haven't the tools to heal that part of his being. And then, when we found the best Christian rehab, I felt hopeless when I learned the cost would be north of $75,000 per year. Your mother and I didn't have that kind of money, but out of the largesse of heaven came a blessing. The rehabilitation center agreed to treat your brother free of charge because of a kindness I did for the director of the center over 20 years ago. Oh, and I wasn't even aware of who the director was. Before creation, God planned our salvation, and before your brother's addiction, God planned to finance your brother's recovery. Isn't it amazing that the God of the universe, the creator of a cosmos that he rolled out like a 53 billion light-year wide scroll, that he, the great I am, pays attention to the cries of a mere man like me? I am swamped in gratitude and drowning in awe of he who is my heavenly Father. The counselors agree with you that your brother does not want to be an addict, but he doesn't have the fortitude to face the violent agony of withdrawal. They described how awful it is when your own brain turns against you and tortures your body to force you to feed it the chemicals it has grown to need. But you are denying it. I thought it wouldn't be that bad since they are going to titrate him down a few milligrams at a time, but they said that titration only partially reduces the intensity of the withdrawal symptoms, and mainly it lessens the risk of permanent damage to his body. They said that eventually the addict must face the day when they completely stop, and then finish the process cold turkey, and it is still an excruciatingly agonizing experience, even after titrating down to the lowest milligrams. So, son, please pray for your brother along with your mother and me. He is entering a fiery crucible, but he is blessed to be in an institution that will take care of his chemical dependency, psychological well-being, and his spiritual health at the same time. They also agree that he has some profound spiritual needs that can only be dealt with by helping him into a strong relationship with God. Otherwise, he will become a recidivist and go back to numbing the pain of his spiritual void. The counselor told me the most powerful therapy they have for bullied kids and addicts like him is the love of God. I was happy to hear that. They offered to also help him with his porn addiction once we get his body reasonably clear of a chemical dependency. The Christian community is being surrounded by a quiet but deadly enemy, and we are not nearly as aware of the threat as we should be. The rehab center gave me some material to educate me about the nature of porn addiction. It is very enlightening and surprising information. I learned that internet porn is almost as toxic to the brain as cocaine. Internet porn is a different pornographic animal than the world has ever seen because of its non-stop high-speed delivery of an infinite variety of sexual images that can be viewed almost anywhere with a smartphone, laptop, tablet, or other internet or Wi-Fi ready device. Millions of pornographic images are readily available to any child holding one of these devices. Private viewing is easy and very difficult to prevent or detect. Internet porn overloads the brain centers that crave novelty and variety. Because the brain craves novelty and variety, it evokes overuse of porn, and overuse drives dopamine, a pleasure hormone, that fuels addiction. To understand why novelty drives overuse, imagine two meals being served. Meal 1 is a buffet, but Meal 2 is steak only with no sides. The likelihood of overeating is higher at the buffet because of variety, and lower with the steak-only meal because of the lack of variety. The level of novelty available with internet porn is exponentially greater than any porn source before it. Now, a teen can in one evening view more sexual encounters than his grandparents might have viewed in a lifetime. Son, that's toxic stuff. And this flood of pornographic images is injurious to young minds that are not developed enough to process this intense stimulation. I don't think we know yet the long-term social and mental health consequences of this plague. Pornography viewing by teens disorients them during the developmental phase, when they have to learn how to handle their sexuality, and when they are most vulnerable to uncertainty about their sexual beliefs and moral values. The brain science of porn addiction should be understood by all parents so they can prepare to guide their kids. Humans are susceptible to forming addictions to any behavior that stimulates dopamine in the brain. Dopamine causes intense feelings of pleasure. Just like cocaine, pornography triggers a dopamine release in the brain, causing the person to experience feelings of pleasure. Dopamine is not the only chemical in the brain affected by pornography. Other chemicals generated by pornography include norepinephrine, oxytocin, vasopressin, endorphins, and serotonin. The combination of all these chemicals can cause malfunctions in the part of the brain that makes rational decisions, so when this occurs, a person's ability to make sound decisions is reduced. Just like cocaine, a person can gain a tolerance for pornography, meaning they will continue to need more stimulation over time to achieve the same level of pleasure. This need for pornographic stimulation can so dominate their lives that they forsake responsibilities, relationships, and health. This constant need for more stimulation can make some people seek out potentially dangerous sexual acts in real life. When someone watches pornography excessively, dopamine becomes depleted. The brain will eventually shut down its dopamine release to protect itself from overstimulation. Ultimately, pornography can change the way the brain functions. The brain will begin to rely on pornography to give it pleasure and stimulation. The brain will become so dependent on pornography that sex or intimacy may no longer be pleasurable for some individuals. Pornography can blur the lines between what is and is not realistic in sex. This mentality can be harmful because it can negatively impact interpersonal relationships and decrease one's own enjoyment in physical connection. Son, I was taken aback by some of the statistics about porn use, and these are old stats. I can only imagine how much worse the problem is today. Studies estimated that between 86% and 96% of men regularly consume porn. Women consume only slightly less. Pornography use increases the marital infidelity rate by more than 300%. 33% of addicts lose their jobs and 56% of divorce cases involved one party having an obsessive interest in pornographic websites. Up to 37 million employees view pornography in the workplace. Teenagers with frequent exposure to sexual content have a substantially greater likelihood of teenage pregnancy. 81% of people accidentally view a pornographic site, which is a huge threat to the young who find it hard to resist diving deeper or accidentally seeing an image with long-term disturbing effects. Over 3,000 new pornographic websites pop up online every day. Son, I will send you the material they gave me in case you want to learn more. I know your own experience with porn addiction already has you aware of the quiet devastation taking place in human souls around the world and in the church. I am glad your brother will have you to help him when he reaches this stage of his rehabilitation journey. I wonder if there is a rehabilitation center for apple pie addicts. If so, Ruel definitely needs a referral, and I need to be careful not to end up there myself. Love you, son. Your dad.